Welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone the very busy Elizabeth Aron, the new principal at Columbia High School. How are you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm great. We just finished our day of ninth grade orientation, so we're all a little tired, but we had a terrific day.
Yes, we're talking to you Thursday, late afternoon. So for people who don't know your background, you have been assistant principal, but you are fairly new to the district, but you have a long background in teaching. What do you bring, do you think, having seen the high school operate for the past year plus? What is it? Do you take a different approach, do you think? Is there big changes this year or not really?
I think one of the great things that I probably bring to Columbia is I've got about 22 years in public education in New Jersey. I think it's really important to talk about public education and public schooling, and I'm very proud that I'm a product of public schools in New Jersey. And I've lived in Maplewood for 17 years this year, so I feel like I have a pretty good sense of our community, how our communities and our two towns have kind of grown and developed and changed over the last approaching 2 decades, I suppose. We moved here in 1997. So I bring a pretty good knowledge of the district and where it's coming from, where it hopes to go, and experience because my children are in our public schools. I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. And I have, quite frankly, a great respect for the history of education in our communities, and Columbia High School in particular. This is a really great, historic, and important place. I actually started our 9th graders today with pointing out to them the fact that even though our building is, about, 1927-ish, so kind of approaching its 90th birthday or so, public education in Maplewood dates way back to the really early 1700s, if memory serves. So that they're just kind of part of that tradition that continues in our community, which is pretty exciting to be part of.
Do you see any big changes in the way that you're going to run things from the way they were run? And if so, what would that be?
I probably wouldn't describe them as big changes. I think the danger of being a first-year principal is coming in with a whole ton of ideas and things that you think should happen without taking stock of where you are or how things work where you are. It's great that I was in the building for a year last year, really getting to know teachers and students well. We do a ton of things really well in this building. Our teachers are deeply talented and creative, and our kids are really engaged and neat kids to be around. But I think the challenges our district faces are really clear. We have shrinking budgets. We have increasing enrollments. We have kids who perform at really high levels all the time, and we have kids who are struggling to be successful in school. So our work at Columbia really will reflect the work that the district has laid out to close achievement gaps as we see them and find them, and really make sure we continue to offer the programs that we have that are so strong. And also to look at what's going on, globally and nationally, and figuring out what it is our kids need to be successful when they leave high school, going into the worlds of work and college, higher education, and making sure that they have all those skills that they need when they leave us so that they're ready to do that.
Now, what is sort of your approach in running a high school of this size? It has a big diversity. You're dealing with 2 towns. You're dealing with, about 1,600 students?
Almost 2,000.
Yeah, so it's up to that even now, so even more students. What is the approach you take that you think is most important when you have that kind of a school that's so diverse and so large in population, but still wants to be personalizing the education of each student?
Hire really talented people is my first approach, always. Hire the best teachers out there.
Do we have many new teachers coming in this year or at all?
At the high school this year,
Yeah.
a very small number of new teachers.
Right, okay.
Very small number. There's traditionally in our district pretty low turnover because this is a really terrific district to work in. And as I said, Columbia has a really strong teaching staff. So the work is hiring really smart people, making their jobs as easy as you can make them by eliminating, kind of bureaucracy and frustration anywhere you can, and making sure your processes are tight and efficient so that teachers can spend time teaching and students can spend time learning. And I had the great fortune to be able to hire 2 new assistant principals this year, so The district put together a committee of teachers.
Those are to be hired.
No, they're hired.
No? Okay.
They came on board July 1st. So we have 3 assistant principals, one who's been in our district for 20-plus years, and then 2 new assistant principals. One was previously a teacher and then administrator in our district, Cheryl Hewitt, and she's moved from
Oh, sure. People know that name. Excellent.
Yep. And then Charles Ezel was a social studies teacher of a decade and spent the last 2 years being an assistant principal elsewhere, James Caldwell High School, and now he's here. He's also a member of our community, which is terrific. His daughter started first grade today. So we have a really strong team in place.
And what do you now? You mentioned in your letter to the parents that there'd be a schedule change, or some kind of a change this year in the scheduling or in the classing, or am I misremembering?
I think you're misremembering.
Okay.
Let's see. One thing, I'm not sure what you're thinking of. You might be thinking of, we've changed up a study hall strategy for our...
That's what it is, yes.
Okay. So we started a program this summer that we found to be really successful. It was called FAST, Flexible Academic Support Time. And we had over 200 students take advantage of coming into the building this summer to work with teachers to get help on anything from summer assignments to AP work to summer school work to summer math packets to SAT workbook, kind of skills work. So what we're going to try and do is develop a more kind of structured and sheltered study hall model where students are really making sure they're taking advantage of that time. 9th graders are new to the notion of a study hall. It's not something that exists in middle school. And, if you're a really intrinsically motivated, strong, academically inclined student, study hall works pretty easily for you. But if you've never had a study hall and all of a sudden you have 45 minutes unstructured time, it can be kind of easily wasted if you're a teenager. And I've got so many teachers in the building, I want to make sure that I'm pairing students with teachers wherever I can. So we're going to be doing that as part of 9th grade study hall.
So this is the first thing, this is new for 9th graders to have study hall?
No, it's new for 9th graders to have what is called a FAST study hall, where there will be some ability to really make sure you can get content area help during your study hall. So in other words, you might have had a study hall with a French teacher being in charge of that study hall, just as a teaching...
And it sort of was an open class. You could study as you wish?
You could study as you wish, and lots of our 9th graders... They tell us, their 8th grade teachers tell us, and their parents tell us they don't know how to study. So we're going to look at helping them learn how to study during that study hall this year.
And full disclosure, you and I are both Summit High School grads.
We are.
And I think we both know that Summit had a very strong academic, disciplined approach. I remember I was just telling my children about if you were even late to class too often, you would get detentions. And if you cut class, that was it. How do you bring forth a discipline?
To assume at high schools nationwide. So one of the things.
But this is a much larger high school, and as we discussed, a much more diverse high school than Summit and a lot of suburban high schools. How do you balance that discipline with the academics, or is it not as difficult as people might think when they look at Columbia as such a large school?
I don't think there's anything inherent in size that means behaviors necessarily change, or certainly academic performance changes. I mean, obviously the larger number of kids you have, the larger kind of range there would logically be in who they are, I suppose. But I certainly don't see a connection between size and what we would call discipline. I've actually said for years that discipline is probably one of my least favorite words in teaching. For example, you mentioned, cutting a class and you get detention. Well, detention doesn't actually change a behavior or solve a problem. It just makes the kid who cut class sit in a room thinking about how annoyed he or she is that he has detention. So what we are looking really carefully at is making sure we do what's called progressive discipline or tiered intervention. So, the first thing you need to do if a student cuts a class is find out why that happened. And sometimes it's because they were angry. Sometimes it's because they didn't want to take a quiz or a test they felt unprepared for. So you kind of need to dig down to what those reasons are and then work with the student and the student's family to really make sure that he or she is on a path toward academic success. And we have kids who achieve at just remarkably impressive levels in the building. what you always want to do is you want to figure out what the habits are of your successful students and make sure all kids have access to learning those habits.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about Columbia for people who maybe, again, look at it as such a big school and then a lot of more students than usual?
Well, enrollments are increasing all over New Jersey, so I think our size is much less unusual that we may have a sense of it being. I guess what you've just laid out is something that maybe you've heard or sensed, which is that people associate size with I don't know,
negativity in some way, or disruptions.
That size is bad.
Yeah.
Whereas I just think size gives you an incredible opportunity for kind of deep and rich engagement of your learner. We have 20 plus AP courses. We had staggeringly impressive AP exam results in spring of 2013. So size gives you, the 65 kids in marching band. We have, hundreds of kids in band and orchestra and chorus classes. We've got regular art. We've got studio art. We've got, PE offerings that I think are better than I would say anybody in the nation has to offer. We've had 2 PEP grants the last few years, so kids are taking special dance, they're taking advanced fitness, they're taking badminton, they're taking, cardio. We've got spin cycles coming down the pike. So sometimes size gives you the opportunity to go after some really good opportunity.
And I know a lot of... Go ahead.
Well, and at the same time, as I say when I'm talking with kids and parents, when I'm standing in the auditorium talking to kids, this morning it was a school of, say, close to 500 freshmen. But when a child or a parent is in my office, we're a school of 1. I think the trick is finding the balance between those two, making sure every student feels his or her needs are met the best way you can, and then making sure that everyone feels that they're part of something larger than themselves.
And the fact that Columbia has so many strong areas that many people do know about. The theater there, all the shows they put on are wonderful. I know there's strong technology and media with the TV studios there. And again, every year when the graduation rates come out, when the four-year college bound come out, they're always right up there. Again, I think many people realize that. And I'll ask you, and I'll let you go, is what do you think is the most positive aspect going forward, and what do you think is the area that needs work most at the high school?
I'm looking at the carpet in my office that needs to be replaced. I'd probably start there. Let's see. Going forward.
And again, this is not unusual for any high school. Everyone has improvements that are needed, but everyone also has things they're proud of that maybe people don't know about.
I guess I have to say, and I guess it's not a guess. I know I have to say that our diverse student body, from ethnic background to socioeconomic status to where they're from to what they love to how they think, is certainly our greatest strength as a school community, and that is true of our teachers as well. We form a remarkably rich community when we're in this building together every day. So that's, I suppose, our greatest strength. And then I suppose the greatest challenge is connected to that, which is serving all of those students and centering them on kind of a common vision. And my vision is that everyone feels that they're here to kind of demand excellence of themselves, demand it of their teachers, have high expectations, and really do the best that they can in everything. This morning with my freshmen, I kept it really simple. I said, you are going to hear so much advice from so many people over the next few days, you're going to forget what almost all of it is. It's just a blur, those first few weeks of high school. So I said, I'll keep my advice to you simple. My advice to you is work hard, make good choices, and do the right thing. And if we have a community of teachers and kids and parents who do that together, then, I think the path forward is bright and clear.
And I know the letter you sent out to parents, there was a lot of reminder that if anyone has questions or concerns, they shouldn't even think twice about reaching out to you or others at the school.
I think people really feeling that communication happens well is strong, because that's one of the things that builds really strong school communities is people feeling that they kind of have information and they know how to find information. Because large schools can be tricky to navigate. Lots of phone extensions, lots of email addresses, lots of kids to help manage and support every day. So I think that, parents feeling that, and one of the things I'm really trying to get people to do this year is I really want high school students and their parents talking to each other. You know, I said to kids I saw this week and parents that I've seen who've mentioned receiving my letter in the mail, I want you to read that letter together. And I want you to both talk about what the principal's saying and why she's saying it. And I want you to both kind of agree that there are reasons she's saying them. You know, kids like to talk about dress code, and parents like to talk about dress code, and they generally say different things. They don't ever talk to each other. I want them to talk about that together. I want them to talk about Power School together, about how their students are doing academically, about whether or not they're participating in extracurricular activities. I think the older our students get, the less inclined we are as parents to talk with them, and it's actually pretty critical to talk to them right now. And I think adolescence is a time where parents and teenagers can withdraw. It can be kind of easy to go into your separate rooms or presume your student's doing homework and you're trying to get work done and not talk about school and how did it go today and what did you learn in your classes. But those conversations are really important conversations for student growth.
And I will tell everyone that when we were trying to connect with you for this interview, you were quick to get back to us again and again. So
tried as hard as I could on the first few days.
Yes, well, it's all well appreciated. One more thing, quickly. Obviously, they're still looking for a new superintendent. What's your thought on that, and how that plays into how well the high school can do?
Well,
it's a big unknown, like everything else, but
yeah, I certainly look forward to the board being able to find a really strong candidate. I think we can. I don't think it's really a secret that New Jersey is a tricky place for superintendents.
Yes, with the salary cap.
Yeah, salary cap and a lot from the State Department of Ed that has brought pressures on teachers and schools, and it's a tricky place for a new superintendent in our district. But I think that we offer, as a community, a really good place for someone who's really talented to come work with us. You know, not just land and say, here's the way you guys need to be doing things, but look at the people who are here. There are really strong school leaders in place, I think, in our district, and I'm tremendously proud to have been considered worthy of joining that team. So I think having someone who wants to come in and really sit with us and talk about where we are and how to get to the next place, it'll be great to find the right person. I think we will.
Excellent. Now, most important, how much of a football fan are you? Are we going to see you at football games, and have you gone in the past? The team hasn't been great in recent years, but
I am the Cougar football team's #1 fan.
Excellent.
We actually look forward to sharing a little news about our football team next week.
Oh, any hints?
Nope.
Okay.
No hints.
We'll get first word, hopefully.
Maybe I'll give you a scoop.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, thank you very much for all this time.
Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Wednesday morning. But we are really looking forward to Coach Power. I think is a terrific addition to our staff. He's a terrific teacher, and I think he's a really strong coach. And our young men are pretty excited. They are scrimmaging tonight, actually at 6 p.m. out
Yes.
in Hills, and we are all very much looking forward to September 12th away and our home opener on September 19th. I would love your listeners to make a point of coming out to that game.
We will keep reminding them, and we'll be there.
Fill the stands for the Cougars. I'd love that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're so welcome. Thanks for calling.